Look at it. I mean, look at it. Tell me that that's not going to be freaking awesome. What's up, guys? We are back in the shop, or I am back in the shop, and it has been all of like a split second since I left you last night. But it is now Sunday afternoon, and here's where I'm at. As you can see, I've got the panel back out of the car. Well, we left it in the last clip. It was sitting over there in the car. I pulled the battery tray setup back out and did some wire brush cleanup on it. Got most of the yuck off of it because I didn't want to have to do that once it was all welded in with that, and didn't want that to be an issue. These panel clamps, these things, money. They just great buy at Harbor Freight for like $3 or whatever they were, pack of 8, well worth it. So the other thing I did is I spent a little bit of time. I am not a welder. I have had no real training on welding. I understand the idea of how it works, but by no means am I a qualified welder. So I spent a little bit of time with a couple of practice pieces. One which was a piece of the old steel, and the other which was a piece of the new steel, and basically, electrically glued them together, i.e. welded them. The lower section down here where my index finger, my pointer is, I haven't cleaned up at all. That's exactly how it ended up from the welding. And then that upper section, I took the DA to it real quick and cleaned it up just to see what the finish was like, see what I was gonna have. And I don't think it's terrible. There's a couple little pits in it, but nothing that a little bit of body work couldn't make go away, which I probably won't do. But I think that's probably about the best that I can get, because I am doing this job with a little Lincoln flux core machine. I don't have a MIG that's ideal for doing this because I just haven't got one. Haven't done enough work that needed it. But if you're wondering, here's what the backside looks like, which will be in the inner fender. Not great. The welds aren't as deep as I'd like them to be. So I might work on that a bit more, try and get the settings dialed in. As you can see, I did hit it with a little bit with a grinder just to see where it was at. And I can live with it for what this project is. That'll work for me. I have like this much experience welding sheet metal, especially with trying to do it with a little flux core machine. So it's not, it doesn't have much for settings. Here, check it out. I'll show you what it's got. Hey, what are you doing down here?
Food's ready.
Oh, I guess my lunch is here. Anyway, what I was saying, the settings on my little Lincoln 125 HD, which it's a great little flux core machine, but it is not ideal for sheet metal or a whole lot of big jobs. It's just a little, patchwork type welder. It's something you can learn on, but as far as settings go, you get wire feed 1 to 10 and a voltage control A, B, C, or D. A being very little and D being a lot. And by a lot, I mean very little, because it's a tiny machine. And there's nothing in between on the voltage. It's either snap into that one or snap into that one. So actually, now that I think about it, I didn't try less voltage. So maybe I'll do a few more test welds on setting A to see if I can run it a little bit longer and get more penetration with less heat. Because the one time I tried to put a little bit more heat into it, or a little bit more wire into it, a little bit slower on the spot weld, I just blew through. So it is what it is. So now the plan is pretty simple. Like I said, I think I am going to try a couple more welds on this material. Maybe cut part of this weld out that I put in there. Just dive the grinder into it and create a slot to fill back in. But once I try that and see where I'm happy with the settings, then it's going to be, repeat this process except on this panel. I don't think I'll get it fully welded in today. I don't even think that's the goal, to finish weld it, because I still have to finish weld on the other one, and I still got to get this this front flange figured out and install or, weld it on there. So I'll probably save all the finish welding for one day where I'm just going to sit down and weld for however long it takes to get all these sheet metal welds done, which take forever because you're like, move to a different spot, move to a different spot. So anybody who's welded sheet metal, I mean, you know how it is. You can't just torch it out. It just doesn't work. So yeah, but before I do that, it's lunchtime. Food's here. I need to go eat. I believe we're having some pizza. Yeah. So we'll be back with, I'll be back doing more of this here in a second. Well, don't judge my welds too much. Some of it's the fact that I'm working with a very limited capability welder, and some of it, probably more of it, is the fact that I'm a very amateur welder, or I don't even consider myself a welder. I'm an amateur play with the electric sticky thing. But that panel's in there. It really wasn't too bad, to be honest. I think overall that I got it pretty much all the way around. I did end up welding it all the way out because I kind of got into a groove and it was kind of working for me. Here's what the backside looks like. Overall, I think the penetration's pretty good all the way around, at least for what it needs to be. Now, in a few spots, the panel alignment wasn't as good as I wanted it to be, so that kind of resulted in a little bit of a kind of like a low spot and a high spot. And it also didn't help that this sheet metal, the old sheet metal, is a thinner gauge than the new sheet metal. So I had to play back and forth. I did have a few little blowouts that I had to work on and fix up. But overall, I think once I get that cleaned up, which I haven't done any cleanup on it other than wire brushing because flux makes a freaking mess of everything. But, and by wire brush, I mean just by hand kind of wire brushing. No power tool's been taken to it yet, which is probably obvious because it looks a little popcorny. But when you're just spot welding sheet metal together, that's what you get, and then you got to clean it up. So I'm going to spend a few minutes. I'm going to clean it up a little bit and get all the garbage off of here, and then we'll get it put back in there and see what it looks like with the battery tray actually installed. All right, so did a little bit of cleanup on this, got rid of most of the gunk that's on there, cleaned up the welds a little bit. They definitely still need a fair bit more work to make my amateur boogers go disappear, but it's cleaning up pretty decent. The back cleaned up pretty good. And I also got to order more abrasives for my small little die grinder, the twist lock type, so that I can get into the curves, because it's kind of hard to get into that curve right there with a 4.5 inch grinder flat disc. Doesn't exactly fit well. Anywho, as you can see, we're going to put it together, hang it in here, and see what we got. That's out of the way. Fender. By all means, our fenders should go on. And part of the reason, I'll clue you in a little bit, part of the reason I'm doing this right now instead of doing more finished cleanup work on that panel is the day is quickly slipping away from me, and well, it's Sunday, late in the afternoon, tomorrow's a work day, same old story that seems to come up every single week. I'm not ready for the day to be over yet, and I still got other things I got to get done, so I pretty much got to, bring this video to an end. But I hate ending just looking at the piece over there and knowing it'll only take 10 minutes to put it in and see if it works. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to put it in, we're going to find out if it works, make sure that I didn't completely waste a whole bunch of time and screw up well, I was about to say screw up a perfectly good part, but we all know that that wasn't a perfectly good part to begin with. All right, I need to bolt those up here in the front of the fender. only done this a few times, just a few. Okay, and then we need to set the core support. This thing. Core support shimmered in place. We'll put a bolt to hold that. That's in. And now we can. That door gap looks close enough. We'll go ahead and snug this up. So I mentioned this in the part 1 video of working with these Heidts inner fenders. I probably should have got the Heidts inner fenders. Actually, good. I'm glad I accidentally brought up the Heidts inner fenders. So I went back, and after having all the problems I had with these, I started looking at the other inner fender kits again, you know, looking at the pictures on Summit and other websites of the different inner fender kits. And lo and behold, I did notice one distinct difference between the Heidts and the Helix. Those two look identical to one another, both available on Summit, as well as the CPPs available on Summit. And for the most part, all 3 kits look identical to one another, except for one distinct feature that's different in the photos of the CPP kit versus the Helix and the Heidts inner fenders, which I'll throw some photos. Let's see, how about, you know, CPP here, and I'll highlight the bad flange, and then the Heidts and the Helix, something like that. Anyway, this flange right here at the front on both the Heidts inner fenders and the Helix inner fenders is bent inboard towards the engine bay. The same modification that I did on the driver side and will be doing on this passenger side. That flange bends inboard, unlike the CPP fenders, these ones that I have now highly modified, where the flange was bent outboard. So I don't know if maybe it's just a compatibility issue, or there's some other sort of magic that makes these CPP fenders work that having instructions would have been able to highlight, or what. But whatever the case, the problem that I had with these fenders, I don't think would be an issue with the Heidts version or the Helix version after going back and doing some research. I'll put the prices up with those images wherever they were. But the Helix version was, I think it's $300. The Heidts version's $370, and these were $220, something like that. So there's a pretty good price. You know, there's a fair price difference to go with one of those other ones over these. But stay there. If they'll work, then it's fair enough to go for it. But again, at the end of the day, I'm already over the fact that it didn't work, because the fact that it didn't work is what led me to doing this modification, which right now, even just seeing it in here like this, I'm already really, really stoked that I made the effort to do it. Now I just got to get this in here where it goes. That's in. Clamp the bottom. Pretty close to where we need to be. I do know that this passenger side has an issue that the driver's side didn't. The hood support bracket, hood hinge support bracket that's right here and goes behind, the holes don't line up very well. The inner fender holes line up pretty well. The hood hinge support bracket The holes are too far forward, so we'll probably have to, maybe they're not tightened in enough. Let's find out. Maybe it's me. This one might be a user error. It got a little better, but yeah, it might be doable without modification. Worst case, if they do need to be, you can get a bolt in there. If they do need to be modified, it's just a little reaming of that hole in there and it'll go. Battery tray. The best part about this whole deal, I need the bolts. Where are the bolts? 1, 2, I guess 2 will do. And I need a third one. I need a third bolt. Hold on, guys. I gotta find my bolt. One more bolt. Where'd it go, bolt? Bolty, bolty, bolty. That's not it. I have them. I found the missing bolt. It's right where I left it yesterday on the cross member. All right, let's, which is where I'm going to put all 3 of them while I. Oh, how did that happen? It looks like I might have ended up just a little too high. Oh no, I know what's going on here. Hold on, I will explain here in a second. There we go. That one's bolted. And then a bolt would go right here, which is actually going to be a complete pain in the neck to put in. Actually, no, that's not that bad. We can get that one in. There you go, it started, and you can get a wrench on it. So, now the remaining, there is another bolt that needs to go in right here that attaches this battery tray to the core support, but we're too high. And the reason we're too high is my inner fender right here is still hitting on the core support, so it's not sitting down all the way. And I've got about a 1/4 of an inch too much clearance right here at the top of the fender to the top of the core support, which is probably pretty close. Oh, I don't know if that's, still don't know if that's going to come down far enough to be in the right spot. We might have to add a new hole in the firewall to support that. But that's okay. Let's find out if a battery will fit. Hang tight, I'll be right back. I gotta find the battery. All right, I found it. This is your average everyday Optima red top with top post, which I need to put that other bolt in, the one that was right there, which means I need to grab a wrench. There we go. We don't want to actually screw this up now that I've got it, halfway decent. As I was saying, this is your average everyday Optima red top, not one of the low profiles. It's a top post battery. Oh, hey, that kind of slid this down where it's supposed to be. That's good. Oh, snap. Check this out. Oh, I need another bolt. Dang it. Maybe this one will work. No? Yes. So when I put the weight of the battery on it, this whole deal shifted, which is probably a good thing. Oh, this isn't the right thread bolt. Oh, there it is. I got it. Okay. So it is, the inner fender still is riding on the core support. It just kind of shifted everything. But when it did, it went down to the right height. And now I was able to get that bolt in on the core support. And now we have the battery in the stock location with the aftermarket inner fenders. The brace is in there. There's a bolt in that, bolt in the core support, the factory bolts. It's all there. It's all freaking there. There's still a lot of work in this to get done before it's actually ready to see paint, much less final assembly. I got to finish cleaning up the welds. I still have to do the flange on this one that comes over and bolts into the bolt holes. That's going to be a little bit tricky because it's not a straight line like the driver's side was, but that's okay, we'll figure it out. And yeah, otherwise I think that's what I'm going to call it for this video. You already know about the flange, you know what to expect there. I'll give you an update on that in the future, but I won't make you hang out for a whole video on what that process is. We already talked about that on the driver's side. Well, now you see the battery tray solution, and I'm pretty stoked about this. Quite literally, this is the first time I've done something like this where I actually wanted to flush out a panel into another one. There are two different gauges of material, which made it a little bit more difficult. Those sheet metal body clamps or sheet metal alignment clamps that I got at I got those from Harbor Freight. It was like $3 for the pack of 8. Those really helped. One thing I did quickly learn with those though is when you get the heat expansion in the metal, if you don't have some extra tolerance to account for that clamp, it gets pinched in there and then it's a pain in the neck to get it back out. So two ways to solve that. One, put your clamps far enough apart that once you start putting your initial tacks in, that there's no tacks next to a clamp, so there's a little bit of wiggle in the material to get it out. Or two, make sure there's a little bit of tolerance there so that when you get the heat expansion, that it doesn't lock that clamp in there and become an issue. But those worked really well. They made it so I could do the fit up, do the checking, and kept everything together and in place. Definitely better than just having magnets would have in this case. So I was really happy with that. And hopefully someone thinks that this is actually a useful idea. Without a doubt, someone who's better at sheet metal work could really execute this and have it come out really good. And you know, all it takes is a little bit of time, a little bit of effort, a little bit of welding, a little bit of grinding, a little bit of cutting, you know, all that jazz. But yeah, I appreciate you guys sticking around and hanging out and supporting the channel and supporting the rabbit holes I get myself into. This car has turned into a very significant rabbit hole from where it was a few months back, but it's going to be worth it. And once we actually do get this thing back together, it's probably going to be a whole new car, even though on the outside it's going to look exactly the same. So until next time, I don't know, have a good week. No, that's dumb. Why would you might be watching this on a Friday, getting ready to have a weekend. Whatever the case, whatever you're doing, make sure you're having a good time doing it. And if you've got an old piece of junk out in your shop that needs to be worked on, get out there, do some work, don't be scared. There's only one way to really learn how to do this stuff, and it's to just do it. So, we'll see you guys on the next one.